Hey everyone, let's jump right in. Have you ever actually stopped to think about the massive scale of global business? Like, when you grab a product from a mega brand, we're talking BMW, Apple, Coca-Cola, what engines are actually running those global empires? We see the sleek products, right? We see the clever marketing, but beneath all of that surface-level stuff is this staggering, highly complex technological foundation. So today, in this explainer, we're going to completely demystify the ultimate enterprise tech stack. Here is our agenda for today. First, the enterprise tech stack. Second, AWS, the cloud backbone. Third, mastering AWS cloud basics. Fourth, SAP, the business brain. And finally, number 5, inside SAP S/4HANA.
Section 1, the enterprise tech stack, building modern business. To really understand how these global giants operate, I want you to picture a massive corporate skyscraper. This is going to brilliantly illustrate the core dynamic we're looking at today. AWS acts as the building itself. It's the concrete foundation, the electricity, the plumbing, and the security systems. Meanwhile, SAP is the brilliant office management team operating inside that building, coordinating all the people, the money, and the daily tasks. Just consider this single, mind-blowing statistic. A staggering 77% of the world's transaction revenue touches an SAP system at some point. Just think about that for a second. 77%. If you want to understand how the global economy literally functions day to day, understanding the relationship between this software and the cloud infrastructure it runs on is absolutely crucial.
Section 2, AWS, the cloud backbone. Infrastructure as a service.
First things first, we need to clearly define what we actually mean by the cloud. Basically, cloud computing is the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data. The really crucial point here is the contrast to how things used to be. Back in the day, before cloud computing, companies had to buy physical, on-premise servers. They had to rent the actual physical real estate to house them, and they took on all the physical risks and maintenance costs. Now, they simply rent highly secure, flexible space over the internet. It's a total game changer.
Let's look at how this built up over time, because AWS didn't just become a titan overnight. Back in 2004, they made a simple queue service called SQS publicly available. Fast forward a bit to March 2006, and they launched S3 for storage. That was followed rapidly in mid-2006 by EC2 for compute power. By 2013, this ecosystem had become so vast and honestly so critical to global IT that they launched their very own certification program. And today, they're the undisputed leading cloud service provider in the entire world.
So, how do businesses actually consume all this cloud goodness? Visually breaking it down, we've got 3 main models. SaaS, or software as a service, targets everyday customers. Think of your daily apps like Gmail or Office 365. PaaS, which is platform as a service, is designed specifically for developers who just want to deploy their code without the headache of managing the servers. Think Heroku or Elastic Beanstalk. And then there's IaaS, infrastructure as a service. This is for the administrators building virtual data centers like AWS, Azure, or GCP. Notice how the responsibility totally shifts here. With SaaS, the provider manages everything for you. But with IaaS, and this is exactly where AWS truly shines, you, the customer, are handed the raw building blocks to construct exactly what your business needs.
But even with the absolute dominance of the cloud, it's actually not the only way. We have the public cloud, where workloads are built entirely on the provider's infrastructure. But then we have on-premise, where resources are deployed privately in a company's own physical data center. Now you might be wondering, why on earth would anyone still use on-premise setups today? Well, large legacy enterprises, government sectors, and hospitals are often the last holdouts. And this is mostly due to incredibly strict data regulations or the fact that they already have a massive, expensive physical footprint.
Section 3, mastering AWS cloud basics, the cloud practitioner.
So if AWS is this massive global infrastructure, how do everyday IT professionals actually learn to navigate the thing? Well, the primary entry point into the AWS ecosystem is the CLF CO2 certification. And the first, most practical question everyone asks when they look at this is, how long does it actually take to study for the Cloud Practitioner exam? The answer is incredibly encouraging. Actually, the average study time for a complete beginner is a highly accessible 24 hours of focused learning. That's it.
Let's completely demystify these exam parameters. It's a 65-question multiple-choice exam. You get 90 minutes to take it, and you need 700 out of 1,000 points to pass. Pretty standard, right? Oh, and the certification is valid for 36 months. But here is the absolutely crucial detail you need to know. 15 of those questions are completely unscored.
AWS actively uses them to test out new difficulty levels and to catch dump sheet cheaters. So if you're taking the test and you encounter a bizarre, wildly difficult question out of nowhere, do not panic. It is highly likely just an unscored test question.
Section 4. SAP, the business brain, enterprise resource planning.
Okay, so now that our AWS servers are humming along beautifully, let's move up the tech stack. We've got the infrastructure sorted, but now we need the software layer that actually manages the daily corporate operations. And this brings us to ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning. Think of ERP as the central nervous system used to manage core business operations. It ties together finance, sales, human resources, and supply chain all into one unified system. Now, while there are absolutely other vendors out there doing this, SAP is the undeniable titan in this space.
And what does SAP actually stand for? Well, it's a famously complex German acronym, Systeme, Anwendungen, Produkte in der Datenverwaltung, or, translated into English, Systems, Applications, and Products in Data Processing. Now don't worry, you absolutely do not need to speak German to use it. Much like driving that BMW we talked about earlier, you just need to know how to operate the machine, not translate the original engineering manual.
To truly grasp the gravity and scale of SAP, just look at this number, 440,000. That is the number of active customers SAP supports across 180 different countries. Their headquarters in Waldorf, Germany, is so unbelievably massive that it physically resembles its own independent city. We're talking complete with its own streets, infrastructure, and canteens. It is an absolute powerhouse of global commerce.
Section 5. Inside SAP S/4HANA, the Fiori UI and access rights.
So what does this software actually look like when you log in? Let's step inside SAP's flagship product, S/4HANA, to see how business actually gets done. When you look under the hood of SAP, you absolutely have to understand its fundamental data architecture. You see, the system strictly divides data into two main categories. First, you have master records. These are your static, unchanging entities. Think of your vendors, your customers, or your general ledger accounts. Transactional records, on the other hand, are action-based. These are your sales orders, invoices, and material documents. Modern software deliberately separates the static who and what from the action-based when and how much.
Let's trace how this highly structured architecture actually works in practice, just to process a basic customer order. Step 1, you must create a business partner, which is essentially a master record shell. Step 2, you add specific customer and financial customer roles to that exact shell. And then step 3, only then can you generate the actual sales order, which is the transactional record. This brilliantly illustrates the system's power. It might seem like a lot of steps up front, but this deep, rigid structure is exactly what's required to ensure flawless accounting for a multi-billion-dollar enterprise.
And how does a real human actually interact with all this complexity without getting completely overwhelmed? Through the modern UI. The Fiori Launchpad replaces the clunky old graphical interfaces of the past with a clean, widget-based dashboard. Instead of massive, terrifying drop-down menus, functions are broken into apps. These are highly specific, singular functions like Manage Business Partners. Workspaces are heavily customized based on strict user roles. In fact, managing mixed access rights across vast networks of documents is a huge focus for modern ERPs across the board. We've even seen competitors like Odoo tackling this heavily in their recent version 18 updates. It's all about ensuring users only see exactly what they need to see to do their jobs. Nothing more, nothing less.
Which brings us to our final, provocative thought for today. As global businesses continue to scale, will the gap between underlying cloud infrastructure, like AWS, and operational ERP software, like SAP, eventually disappear entirely? Will they just merge into a single, seamless entity? The lines between where the cloud ends and the software begins are blurring more and more every single day. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the enterprise tech stack. Keep questioning, keep learning.